numbers.
Don't talk to them.
I mean, say that.
You're behind for classes.
We got one appointment, 20 people.
But sleep.
Not 20, about 18.
That's not a lot of room.
And some check out around me, yeah.
Yeah.
Running around me all night.
Yeah.
Tuesday, I had 40 confirmed, but 33 rejected.
Oh, wow, really?
That's good. The crowd.
Some appointments, a lot of them told me down the road, that was good.
Yeah, you're gonna get started.
Then they walked by on the way up, or sitting, said, hey, you can't call right now.
Oh.
That's the way it wasn't just a put up. I'm sure you make it call.
Right?
Jody says 1 more minute, there's 4 people.
Okay. We got 1 minute, exactly.
Feels like a stage performance.
We're gonna keep this on a pretty tight time schedule because we're streaming this to there's like 70 people that are watching the live stream. Assuming Michael knows what he's doing.
It's live right now. Anything you say can be held against you at this point, so.
Don't be picking on Michael, he doesn't get much sleep.
So is this YouTube or
Because I know
Facebook?
nothing
YouTube.
about it, trust me.
So is it recorded
Picking
too
on
then?
Michael.
Yeah, it'll stream live and then record, so anybody who didn't see it, we can just send them the video.
Who knows what hell you're watching?
Can they hear us?
Yeah,
Is that coming through the microphone
yeah.
there?
But they'll have a microphone on, so that'll cancel out background noise.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Something you want to say to the group, Mike?
Yes. You're probably wondering why I called this meeting.
I haven't spent that
Well, that was in the business.
Yes.
Okay, well, we need to get started. I think you all heard me that we're actually live streaming this event. Excuse me. So there are about 70 people that have that are looking at this live today, and it's kind of an experiment for us. We've not done it before, so hopefully it works out well. We welcome all of you and those that are watching us live. You know, DOL, this cartoon was on one of the articles that that's come out in the last week talking about DOL, and I looked at that and I thought that's very appropriate. So we copied it and put it up, and you know, I get confused all the time about my eyesight. Every day it seems like it's worse. I guess it's because I don't know what.
You're getting older.
You've got packets in front of you. Another thing I want to call your attention to is our team, mostly Michael back there, put together a DOL website, and that site is the DOLsolution.com. It's simply an information site. So I'd encourage, if you haven't been there, to go there. You can sign up for a newsletter that's going out about once a week or once every other week. There's also a report that you can sign up for. What else, Michael? There's a lot of information there on DOL. There's a place where we post articles that come out almost on a daily basis, where you have links to them so that you can go there and see pretty much everything that's being said about DOL in the press, investment news, several different resources that. And you know, we get emails from so many resources, sometimes it's nearly impossible to keep up with. So we're picking the ones we feel are pertinent and posting them here. If you go there, you can take a look at that and download that. Also, there's a blog, and this week's blog, which is going to be posted Monday, deals with, we've had a lot of questions since the election, since Trump was elected. How is that going to affect the DOL rule? And there are all kinds of opinions about that. The one I like the best was the guy said, you know, with Trump, who the hell knows? You know? So the bottom line is, that's the blog post this Monday if you want to go take a look at that. So Having said that, let's back this back up. And Paul, if you want to come and switch this to Kim's presentation. We're really pleased to have a couple of really industry leaders with us today to talk to us. And the first one that I want to introduce to you is Kim O'Brien. And before I introduce Kim, I was pleased, her husband Kelly chauffeured her here today. He's sitting in the back. Kelly, welcome. Glad you could make it. He kids that he's worked in this industry for a long time, and he's now working for Kim. And I said, what's new about that? I've been working with my wife for almost 50 years. So anyway, Kim has 35 years of experience in the insurance industry. She's extremely respected in our industry, particularly as an outspoken advocate and lobbyist for fixed annuities. Most recently, Kim served NAFA, the National Association for Fixed Annuities, for almost 12 years, and she helped the annuity industry to secure numerous legislative and regulatory victories. After leaving NAFA, Kim founded Americans for Annuity Protection, or AAP, which promotes public policy that provides a well-regulated, diverse, and competitive annuity marketplace, serving Americans across the economic spectrum. AAP is a nonprofit 501c4 organization with offices in Phoenix, Arizona, Washington, D.C., and Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. Kim has been acknowledged as a pioneering consumer advocate and industry leader. As founder and CEO of AssessBest, Kim's firm is developing a robo-platform to assist independent advisors in identifying client needs for fixed insurance products while assuring full compliance with the new DOL rule. So with that said, I'm going to ask Kim to come up, and Kim's going to wow you with her knowledge.
I get prepared to be loud. Mike, can I ask if I'm on?
There you go.
You just hit this button to advance your slide.
Okay, good. Okay, well, thanks for letting me be here. Am I too loud? I tend to be loud. I don't even know if I need a mic, but we'll keep it going. So Mike gave you all the background and the backstory of AAP, but one of the things I want to emphasize is the reason I really left NAFA and founded AAP is because I felt the industry was missing a consumer voice. And not just the industry, you all, but the regulators. You know, if you read all the DOL information that the DOL used or pretended to use to support their promulgation of the rule, you will see that they had very little consumer input. I worked with a woman at AARP, Michelle, and I asked if they had actually polled their consumers, their members, about the AARP's position on the rule, because their comment was very much in favor of the rule and had a lot of statistics about people losing money because of conflicted advice. But I wanted to know, is this your members' attitude or is this AARP's attitude? And she told me that to the best of her knowledge, they did not do any member outreach on this. That absolutely infuriated me, because if we don't really know what the consumers need, how can we put regulation out there telling you what to do with consumers? And that's our position. The consumers need to know. So where are we? It's a hodgepodge. Basically, you have, we got our three branches of government. We got the judiciary, we got legislative, and we've got the administration. We know what happened last week. Despite all these rumors about turmoil in the transition, we're really only 8 days in. So I think we all have to just take a breath and let everything happen. But we don't know what's going to happen. And Mike quoted a very good quote, which is, we don't know what this president is going to do. And we don't know, as a populist, as he's a stated populist, whether he's going to be in favor of the approach the rule is taking or opposed. We don't know. We also don't know because we have a very interesting legislative branch. We have 3 bills already on the floor in the House, and we have 3 bills over on the floor in the Senate. But there's a lot of other activity happening. There's Dodd-Frank, there's the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. We don't know if our the rule we're stuck with today is gonna be used as a bargaining chip for any other action in Dodd-Frank or Affordable Care Act. We just don't know. So my message to you today is prepare for it. You can always push down and, turn off the switch, but if you're unprepared, and it happens, you are going to be really left at sea without a ship. So let's prepare for it. That's my big message to you. We've had 3 court cases. The last was just heard yesterday. We got an unfavorable decision in DC. Don't know what we got in Kansas yet. They're still looking. Judiciary is not supposed to be influenced by elections, but we've seen in the SEC that the judiciary was influenced by elections in many SEC actions in our industry. So we don't know. What we heard, Mike showed me a thing, I didn't get to read it this morning, but an article said that there was strong favorability in the Texas case with all the multitude, ACLI, and insurance, all the people, the Chamber of Commerce, everybody that's in that now merged lawsuit, that the judge was favorable to derailing the DOL rule. That could be very positive. However, I talked to an SEC, someone who worked at the SEC, a former SEC individual, and she said, with the change in the election, we're gonna have 3 Republicans and 2 Dems. That's the rules. White House gets to have 1 more. And so we're gonna have that. We don't know who they are. There's 2 vacancies right now. Mary Jo White has just announced that she's leaving in January, so we don't know what we're gonna get over there. But what this SEC person said to me is they have a blueprint. They don't have to rewrite anything, because they've got, even if the rule is vacated by the courts, or we get a delay because of the administration through appropriations, we already have a blueprint of a law, or in this case, it's a rule. And so the SEC is very likely to use that as their roadmap to putting something together quickly on a fiduciary standard that is uniform. We think that makes sense anyway. This money, I have an article I wrote 2 weeks ago, the conversation with an annuity buyer. How many people have clients that have both qualified money and non-qualified money? Okay, so client, here's my recommendation for you for your qualified money. Before we get into this, you gotta sign this piece of paper. This piece of paper tells you I'm a fiduciary and I'm gonna act in your best interest. So would you sign? Well, Kim, this says the contract is between me and Annuity Marketing 101 or Bank Institution XYZ. Why, if you're acting in my best interest, why am I signing this contract of an institution, a financial institution? Well, don't worry about it, you just have to sign it. Okay, you can't go forward until you sign it. Just sign it. Okay, now my recommendation on your non-qualified money is this. Okay, where do I sign? Oh, we don't have to sign anything with that. Well, are you my fiduciary? No, I'm not a fiduciary in this piece. I'm an annuity agent. But you're a fiduciary over here. Yeah, I know that. Try not to get confused. Just sign that. Don't have to sign anything here, and we can handle all your money the way you need to. Oh, and by the way, you're gonna get another contract from an annuity insurer that is between you and the insurer. What? This is the problem with the DOL rule. This is the fundamental problem with the DOL rule. It only treats qualified money this way. Now, there's a lot of other problems. The BIC is a big problem. The new 8424 is a big problem. But the fundamental problem is you've got consumers out there, half of the room, that have qualified money and non-qualified money, and they're gonna have all these different conversations and all these different contracts to sign. That's not helpful. That doesn't help the consumer understand what they're getting and what they're doing with their financial assets. We're opposed to it. So, I think you should prepare, and I'm gonna prepare you to be prepared. Okay, are we on board with that? All right, Everybody's affected. And I think anything that happens in the SEC with a uniform fiduciary standard, and I believe there will be one, it's going to impact all assets, all activity, all conversations, all recommendations, including fixed annuities. Everybody's impacted. We believe the most important person in the equation, sorry everybody, but we believe the most important person in the equation is consumers. We want a rule that is uncomplicated, not confusing, and helpful. That makes the industry and the consumer in the best position to save. Not put everybody in a turmoil of regulatory oversight and compliance conundrum, but something that is easy to understand and easy to implement, and everybody wins. And it can be done. There can be good regulation. It's going to impact any recommendation. The DOL rules, as I said, qualified money only. But I think what we're going to get is any recommendation with assets to move, to not move, to stay put, to distribute, to diversify is going to be impacted. Today, the DOL rule, again, only deals with qualified money. An important piece of that is a recommendation not to move money. If you're talking to a customer who's in an old IRA annuity under the rule, and you say, stay put, I think we should hold the course for now. You just turned into a fiduciary under the rule, which is kind of counterintuitive because you really didn't make a recommendation, but the rule says you did. You recommended that they not do something with qualified money. So make sure you understand the rule. We could get it still. Make sure your business is prepared and you know who in your database is qualified and non-qualified because the rule is split on that. So what we have is this awful BIC. It's called the Best Interest Contract. And in order to utilize it, you have to comply with the exemption, which is a lovely government use of a word because it's not an exemption from the rule. It's an exemption from being prohibited from the rule. Got it? Okay. How is the BICE? If you take variable compensation, and that's any annuity commission you're getting today, and you receive variable compensation, what that means is you're not paid a level fee for all the assets that you talk about. You move money here, you get 6% commission. You do this over here, you get a 4% commission. That's a variable commission structure. And in order to receive that, you need an exemption. So it's not a prohibited transaction. And that's the BIC. And the rule says the BIC must be with a financial institution and the customer. There's no contract with the advisor, but you are the fiduciary in the room. And you have to comply with the standards. And there's basically 3 pieces of the BIC. You must tell them you're a fiduciary and make no misleading statements. Because you're making misleading statements all the time right now, aren't you? We already have laws in place that, prohibit you from doing that. But this is an additional law that says you may make no misleading conversations. In addition, you must only accept reasonable compensation. Now let's talk about that concept for a minute. What is reasonable compensation? Is a 7% commission on a 10-year FIA reasonable?
No.
I argue it is.
Yes.
Because here you go.
You want to
Here you go. 10-year product, right? That's 7.7 a year. Sure, it's paid out in advance, but it's 0.7 a year, right?
Right.
But what is an annuity? An annuity is an insurance contract. What does insurance contracts do?
Guarantee.
They price on mortality. So if I'm, 64, I got till, I'm not, by the way. But pretend, because that's the number I know. That I have till, I'm gonna probably live to what? 85? 84, let's just say 84 for easy math, okay? 20 years. So if you take that 7% over 20 years, what do you got? Now, I had this conversation with Karen Lloyd at the DOL. She's the chief of exemptions, and I laid that out for her. She said, well, what do they get the second year? I went, no, this is heat commission, that's how we call it in this world, in our industry. But think of it as compensation paid in advance. Because now, why is it paid in advance? Because the contract becomes between the owner of the annuity and the insurance company. So they pay you up front because you're out of the picture contractually. You're not as a service and a good provider of service to your customers, but you're out of the contract. So we pay that in advance, nothing is earned the second year. Her answer, or her response, it wasn't an answer, was, and I quote you, huh.
Comforting.
So here we have, I'm not calling Karen out either, 'cause she's a very good, hard worker, she really means well, but she didn't understand that our compensation structure in heat commission world doesn't pay any money the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, on into 10 years. That's a problem when you're promulgating a rule that basically, in its enforcement, calls out variable compensation as bad. The rule does that because of the imposition it puts on the variable compensation advisor. When in reality, and I built a bunch of annuities, I don't know, I counted them up one time, it was over 50 and I stopped. But I built a bunch of annuities, and I sat down across from the actuaries. Now you have to have a lawyer in the room. At the time I was doing it, you didn't. But now you do. Anyway, the heat compensation, when I wanted a semi-heat with a trail, that cost me more money in the product. It costs about 15 basis points more to have a non-heat structure. And why is that?
Because the trails are theoretically increasing value.
The reserves have the art.
You guys, are you actuaries? Are they playing it? That is exactly right. It's a known expense versus you don't know the expense going forward, so you have to project the expense. So I had a 15 beep at the time. This is, I don't know how many years ago, but more than 20, let's say. So I don't know what the cost could be today, but I knew it was more expensive. So they need to understand any new rule that we're gonna get needs to understand that variable compensation is a very efficient and fair way for the consumer and for the industry. They have to understand that, and that will be our charge at AAP. Big light is when you take level fee compensation. So let's say some of these companies are coming out with products with level fees, right? Nothing wrong with that. If that works in your business model, that's great. But these level fees say that you don't have to have some of the onerous aspects of the BIC. You still have to do everything the BIC says you have to do. Act as a fiduciary, no misleading statements, your compensation has to be reasonable, but you don't have to have that contract. So now we have that changed conversation for the consumer. I'm under BIC Light, so we don't have that contract now for that product that you chose because that's a level fee product. Okay, then we have the impartial conduct standards, which are essentially the mirror of the BIC requirements, no misleading statements, reasonable compensation, establish that you're a fiduciary, but you don't have a contract, and you've got to disclose all your comp under the 8424. Under the BIC, they say that you have to tell your customer that you're being paid by the insurance company that you're representing, but you don't, and if you want more information on the expenses and the compensation involved, go to this website. Okay, I'm gonna do that, right? As a customer, I'm gonna do that, but under the 8424, which is all fixed rate annuities, you gotta say, I'm getting 7% for this. Somebody had a hand up.
Yeah, so for all the delicate geniuses at the DOL, what do they consider?
Delicate geniuses, may I use that?
Yeah, go ahead. What do they consider reasonable compensation?
Well, that's a conversation we've been having a lot of. And there's a lot of confusion out there. My approach is that, and they have said this, both Borzi and Perez, Secretary Perez and Assistant Secretary Borzi have both said this. It doesn't have to be the lowest cost product in the in the stable, in the barn. It doesn't have to be the most competitive in the barn. But it does have to be reasonable based on market-based benchmark testing. So my argument is if you got 150-ish 10-year FIAs out there, and the average comp is 6.6, 6.8, I think it's gone lower a little bit, but let's just pretend 6.8. And the standard deviation between the high comp and the low comp is, let's just say 4.7, if that's about right. Then if you're within the average and the standard deviation, that's a market bench test that's reasonable. We don't have a definition, so we're all kind of, establishing it. But I stand, and I've made this comment to the DOL, that we believe that's a reasonable benchmark for our products. Now, the question comes up, if you had two identical annuities, because there are tons of identical annuities out there, right? I'm being facetious. But if you had two identical annuities, let's just say two MIGAs, and one's a 4% comp and one's a 5, and you sell the 5, you could still do that, and it can still meet a reasonability test if you can demonstrate the reason for the differential. Company rating is a reason. Your experience, I've been in it for 35 years. This product could be sold by, a kindergartner. So you can use differential neutral factors to demonstrate the differential. But that's all, as Niju constantly reminds me correctly, we can be as smart as we want out here. There's still gonna be a lawyer that's gonna contend our smartness. So that's what we think is a reasonable compensation test, but it's a jump shoot with a lawsuit. And then suitability is not going away. It was here to stay. It's the law in like 42 states. And plus Harkin, what we succeeded in doing, all of us, the industry succeeded in doing, which is keeping the FIA as a non-security, which it is. Harkin says in order to be considered a non-security, you have to comply with suitability even if the state hasn't adopted it. So suitability is here. So we're gonna keep doing suitability. So what does that mean? These are what you have to do under a fiduciary standard. Always act in the best interest of the client. And again, I would put forth to you, you do that already. Number 2, material conflicts of interest. They consider compensation, variable compensation, material conflict of interest. And that is fix number 1 we have to address. Because variable compensation is a payment for your authority and experience and knowledge. It is not, in my opinion, a conflict of interest. You're getting paid because you know more about refrigerators than somebody else does. You're getting paid because you know more about a medical device, prescription drugs, than somebody else, than someone who's not trained, knowledge, licensed to do it. Prohibited compensation, under the 8424, everything's prohibited except commissions. Revenue sharing, trips, everything. Under the BIC, because they constructed it differently, those things are okay as long as they're reasonable and disclosed. Disclosure and documentation is a must. And if you're not documenting and disclosing to your customers what you do, what services you provide, you should be doing that anyway, regardless of a fiduciary standard. Under fiduciary, you're gonna have to do it. And you're gonna have to keep darn good records. The days of paper files, you guys, are over. The days of writing down the conversation you had with your client and what you agreed on are over. Because why? Because you're doing that after the fact. People forget. People make mistakes. I think Wanda told me she wanted to retire in 10 years. Well, maybe that was Paul on appointment number 1 of the day, and Wanda said 12. People don't remember things. So you're gonna need to make sure you document your conversations, your decisions with your clients, and keep really good records that really actually establish that documentation. We've gone over this, but I think this is important. The fiduciary duty that you're obligated under is to make sure that you understand the client's objectives, their time horizon, and their risk tolerance. What does that sound like? Isn't that the 13 points of suitability? So I contend, and I've contended all along, a fiduciary duty is 90% suitability. As our lawyer said, Joan Boros, fiduciary subsumes suitability. I love that. Because only a lawyer would use that word ever. But anyway, it is a major component. And you've been required to do that legally since 2010, Harkin. But most companies actually put forth suitability requirements in 2007. So you've been doing this for almost 10 years. So that's a big piece. So not so bad, right? The only difference is until the compensation piece under this rule. And that's what we need to fix. We need to fix the absolute misunderstanding and bias against our compensation model. These are the prohibited I already mentioned. Revenue sharing, administrative fees, market fees, anything you get piled on top of besides your commission payment from the carrier is going to be prohibited in a fixed rate annuity sale, only under 8424. Those are allowed under the BEC. They permit that.
Which rules it? It's allowed in one category, not another.
Fixed index annuities and variable annuities are subject to the BIC. Fixed rate annuities are subject to the 8424. But the DOL has called us and asked us to explain deferred income annuities, QLACs, book value, MIGAs. I believe they're contemplating that MIGAs and book value look more like fixed index, because they do, just the way they determine interests are different. And DIAs, deferred income annuities, and MIGAs look more like Social Security. Payment out doesn't change based on the value of the annuity. That's their definition of fixed rate, that the payout doesn't vary because of the value of the annuity account value. And in a DIA, it doesn't. In a MIGA, it doesn't for the MIGA period. If you keep it after the MIGA, now it's more like a book value product. And SPIAs, single premium immediate. So I think they're starting to wonder, because we had an FAQ, right? Did you read it all? Need you and I did. That's okay, that's what we're here to do. But I've been talking with the DOL since and asking questions, and we're gonna have an FAQ for the FAQ. And then we'll have an FAQ for the FAQ for the FAQ, because it just keeps happening. This FAQ, Niju and I had a very good conversation. We think it means this, we think it means this. What does it mean? So I called the department, and I didn't call, I emailed. And she said, we'll put that in the question and answers for the next release. So we're gonna get an FAQ for the FAQ. And I think it'll be more than the 24 pages they gave us the first time. So that's what we have. What am I talking about here? Okay, your material conflicts is basically your compensation, but if you have any other material conflict, and in fiduciary world you could, and depending on the client, and if you're doing their business plan versus their personal plan, but I think most of you know what's a conflict in your conversations with your client and in your recommendation with your client. But we'll be coming out, and I'm sure others will be coming out with much more information about what constitutes a material conflict. But be prepared to make sure you understand it, and then if you do have one, you disclose it. This is the big problem in the rule. I think I said that 4 times already, didn't I? So here's another big problem in the rule, okay? That if the transaction is deemed prohibited, so someone proves that you made a misleading statement, someone proves that you took excessive compensation, and someone proves that you didn't act in the best interest, it becomes a prohibited transaction. So that $100,000 annuity is now prohibited. And the IRS is allowed, under 4976, to slap you with excise tax. The rule says the excise tax can be as much as 100% of the prohibited transaction. So 100,000 has to go back to the customer, carrier pays it back, and it's in the carrier's coffers, by the way, not like Bertie Madoff, right, who made off. With the 100,000 returned to the customer, you could be liable, or the IRS could fine you up to 100%.
The agent.
The agent. They require that you do it 6 years. We think that's probably going to be maintained. Demonstrate compliance with the PTEs, the prohibited transaction exemptions. That's what we're going to be working on and trying to fix. Okay, but here's the good news. And we're going to fix this, you guys. This is going to get fixed. We've got a whole new world out there, and we've got an opportunity with lawsuits and delay and a good SEC that we're going to fix it. But we're going to be under a fiduciary standard, I believe. You are all going to be under a fiduciary standard. I don't think that's going to be a huge impact to you because I think you're already operating that way. You're just going to have to create documentation and a record-keeping process that can demonstrate you're acting that way. So you've got new prospecting opportunities. All these people are going to know about annuities because we're talking about them. And what have you seen from the administration and from legislators? Contemplating, maybe we should make annuities easier to buy in 401k state plans. Maybe we should make annuities, maybe we should safe harbor the employer in a plan sponsorship to encourage them to offer annuities. Annuities are getting pressed big time in a positive way by our politicians. So there's new opportunities out there. It's going to be a safer selling environment for you, and I believe for the consumer. We are not going to be able to do some of the marketing that we've seen that we go, oh my God, 8% return. I had a conversation with that marketer. You can't say 8% return. You're talking about the income payout. Well, it's a return. They're returning their money. I'm like, oh my God. If that's not misleading, I don't know what is. And under a rule, I think that would go away. So it's going to be a safer environment, both for the consumer and I think for you too, because the guardrails are going to be much clearer, much easier to see than they are today. Your selling expertise is needed. Customers don't want, study after study, they don't want robo. And by the way, what does robo do now? Robo just takes an existing asset and diversifies it according to a bunch of questions it asks the customer. It doesn't help the customer know what to do with that asset. It doesn't help the customer understand that you can have guarantees in an annuity you cannot get in an investment vehicle. You're needed, and you will be more needed tomorrow than you are today. I guarantee you. So what can you do now? How many have a customer relation management platform they use? If you don't, you really need to get one. Because again, you're going to need, if you're going to need to demonstrate, you're going to have to demonstrate that you've got the systems in place to follow the law. And one of those laws is record keeping. And one of those laws is documentation and demonstration. So if you don't have a CRM, you probably should think about getting one. If you do have one, clean it up. Make sure you understand your customers' objectives, needs, risk tolerance.
Kim, isn't it also part of that law, regular reviews?
Well, the law requires that the financial institutions supervise the fiduciaries, the advisors. And so that could mean a regular review. But I think you're meaning you regularly review.
With the client.
With the client. Oh, okay, an annual checkup
At least
kind of
an
thing.
annual,
Yes. At least the opportunity that you offer your services to meet with your client every year to review their situation, because objectives, needs, goals, time horizons change, risk tolerance change too. So that is a good point, Mike. And identify a software solution that helps you do this. And that's what Mike mentioned. I woke up, Kelly remembers the night, February at 3 a.m. I got it fixed for the DOL, so we can still keep selling annuities the way we're selling them today, with some more checks and balances. that are good. And Assess Best came out of that. And what it is, it's really a system to uncover guaranteed insurance solutions. Think about it. What we do, what our product does, it guarantees income, lifetime or legacy. It guarantees growth, accumulation, and minimum guarantee, can't lose it in market. And it guarantees protection against market risk. 3 very strong guarantees that you can ask your customer, do you need? So how do we know if they need guaranteed income? Well, we have patent pending GIG, which is the guaranteed income gap. So if you're getting $2,800 a month client from Social Security, but you anticipate your expenses to be $3,400, you've got a $600 a month gap. Do you want that guaranteed? Only one product in the retail space can do that. Do you have a legacy gap? You want to leave so much for the kids, but you don't know how much it's going to have left if it's in a risk investment. So we'll uncover that in the software if that's their desire. Do you have a protection gap? You're 64 again, I must love that number, or hate it, I don't know. but you're 64 and you got 80% in at-risk vehicles. That's probably an overexposure, and you have an asset protection gap. And then we have, of course, the asset accumulation gap. You're 50, you want to retire at 65, just to use a different number. You want to retire at 65, but you might not be able to get there with today's savings. But we want to accumulate that in a safe way, so let's figure out your guaranteed accumulation gap. You may have one of the above, all of the above, none of the above. Our system will uncover those insurance gaps and provide you with the opportunity to have conversations about the annuities that you recommend, that you offer and you represent. These are what our products do that nobody else does, other than Social Security and a pension, which most of us don't have. And through Mike Ford and PFG, Mike is a charter member of Assess Best, and you can get it for $199 a year, the whole platform, which helps you document, does your record keeping for you. If you have a CRM platform, it allows you to upload. We're not going to make you change, because we know how you guys love change. You can upload your CRM. You can take your clients through the documentation to uncover their guaranteed insurance gaps. And then you have an opportunity to provide a product that you recommend. One thing we did very explicitly when we were working with fiduciaries on the platform is they said, do not kick out a product recommendation or even a product class recommendation. Don't say you need an FIA with an income rider. Let me do that. That's my job. I understand. Let the client know what their gaps are, their insurance needs are, and then I will find the right product or products that's going to address it. And so that's what we did. All that comes out of the customer assessment report, and that's why it's called Assess Best, because you assess their needs, you analyze them, and then you advise. And I hope you consider it. I got good friends out there with competing products. They're very good products. They do different things, and you may need different things. So consider us. We hope you do. But again, there are other good products out there that I really recommend because I know the folks that built them as well. And I'll take one question, then we got to go over.
Are you familiar with Riskalyze?
I am.
Okay.
Had a good conversation with them.
We use that in our practice right now. Does your system kind of mirror what they're doing?
Actually, no.
Okay.
We do a much better job. Honestly.
What
and
was
I-
the question?
Am I familiar with Riskalyze? And I am. What we do very differently is, number one, we focus on insurance needs. We do not, they focus on risk, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a big component of the need. But we focus on insurance gaps, where people need our guaranteed products and don't know they need them until that gap is uncovered for them.
What's the one
Riskalyze doesn't do that.
Yeah.
They do other things very well.
What's the one that doesn't show under,
What's the last
Oh,
slide?
what we have in our program is a
What's the last one?
$549 a year E&O that includes a
no,
fiduciary.
underneath that, there's something.
There's
that's
another
not
bullet
listed.
that we
That's what she's
we
saying.
blew that up, Kim, and lost the last bullet on that slide.
That's what she's telling me. It's the It's the end of.
We'll look it up and tell you before the meeting's over.
Kim, I have a quick question.
I have it on my phone, so go ahead.
One of the things that seems to me to be lost in all the conversation is, in reasonable compensation, I've never heard it discussed that the client doesn't pay for the compensation out of their pocket. It comes from the insurance company as a cost of doing business.
We talked about that at great length, and that's why they say direct or indirect expense, because it is an expense. You know, but it's part of the expense. As I say, you know, the engine costs something,
Right.
and they're asking you to say how much the engine costs, but there's all this other, you know, cost in the car that they don't care about.
Right.
But it is an expense and it's indirect.
The one thing, and I don't know why this doesn't get away with that problem, is I explain to my people, yes, I'm compensated, but you're not paying it, but you are paying it. And how are you paying it? Time. So your time covers your fees. You're committing your money to an X amount of time, and then as long as
That's a
you
great way to explain it.
And I do that. So what difference does it make what we're paid? Because it's not coming out of your money as long as you play by the rules.
As
What's
long
the
as you-
rules, then it's explained.
And that's the other beauty of surrender charges, because it is, they could make, you know, the disintermediation expense, which is when people leave a product, they could put that in an expense for everybody. What the surrender charge does is it just hits the person who doesn't meet the contract, who doesn't
Right.
stay. But that's a good way to explain compensation. The problem with regulators is they believe, they can't get out of their fee mindset of 1% AUM over here. That's what they're very familiar with, that's what they get. And they just don't get this concept. And I sat across from Assistant Secretary Borzi asking if she knew how much her, she just talked about having to get her air conditioning all done, all new. And I said, did you need a new air conditioner or just a repair? I don't know. Did he recommend a new or a repair and show you the both option? No, I think he just recommended a new one. Do you know how much he was paid for that new one? No. Do you care? I love my air conditioner. So all these problems they're pointing out at the end of the day, she didn't care about any of that. She loves her air conditioner. And she said, I didn't want to worry about it breaking after it got repaired.
Cyber secure record keeping.
You bet. So I'm gonna get out so we can need you up.
There you go.
One quick
Kim,
question, Kim.
Cyber secure error keeping.
Oh, that's right.
Record keeping
Yes,
is
we're
that last
working
bullet.
with Firelight to have a cyber secure data protection. That'll also seamlessly work with suitability for carriers.
One more question, this $199 fee, is this just plug in the information that spits out the needs?
It's
Yeah.
Plug in
the
all the
insurance
income
gaps.
and-
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
It's intuitive, Mike. It's like TurboTax. You ever done TurboTax where it asks questions and you fill in the blanks? Am I correct, Kim?
Yes.
So if you put something in there and it doesn't jive, it'll say you indicated this, but that may not. But we need to answer this if you're going to say that over here, and it comes up with the.
So because it's doing a complete analysis, you're putting in, for instance, their social security, their pensions, any cost of living increases with the pension.
There's a lot of that you can put in, you're not required. We have a lot of optional fields that you may want to use. We have other optional fields that you may want to just do just to uncover the gaps, and then when you go back and make the recommendation, then you fill it in. So it allows you to get that detailed, or just during the assessment phase, you don't have to do as much detail.
But then it'll print out a spreadsheet too then?
It'll put out an assessment report saying your risk tolerance is here, you want to retire at this age, you want all the answers to the questions.
So that's something we can put in our file, and that's gonna address our, there you go, okay.
Okay, guys.
And customer acknowledgements too.
Kim, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm sure Kim's expertise and how well connected she is in Washington and with DOL, it becomes very obvious. And it's one of the reasons why, besides being friends, we really value our professional relationship with her, and very excited about what she's doing. I need to tell you, we need to keep moving, but the bathrooms are right outside here, so if you do need to use the facilities, feel free to slip out and back in. Because of the folks that are watching this streaming, I'm not going to take a break. But again, please feel free if you need to get up, we understand. I want to bring up our next guest, Mr. Niju Vaswani. I've known Niju for many years. He's the Chief Marketing Officer for Legacy Marketing Group. Legacy, as many of you may know, is an industry-leading insurance products design and distribution company. Over 24-year history, Legacy has been responsible for distributing over $20 billion in fixed and indexed annuities. Niju is a driving force behind the creation of Legacy's innovative and proprietary product portfolio with multiple carriers. He's going to be speaking about Legacy's plans for 2017 and beyond. You may or may not know, Legacy is one of the organizations that has filed for financial institution status. So they will be able to sign the BIC agreement for folks that are doing business with them. They have a lot of insight on the IMO side of the table, and we're really pleased to have Niju here. And in his prior life, by the way, Niju was the president of the Altasure Group, which many of you may be familiar with. He's designed and been an innovator of proprietary annuity products for years. And as the CEO of Transamerica Life Bermuda, he handled international sales and operations of Transamerica. So please help me welcome Mr. Niju Vaswani. Thank you, Niju.
Thank you, Mike. You guys can hear me okay? Is this thing on?
Green?
This is green?
Okay. Maybe put it up just a little
Wrap it
bit.
up a little bit. Yep, that's a good idea. How's this?
Yes.
This better?
Yes.
Clicker's right there.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Well, hello, everybody.
Hello.
Let's give Kim O'Brien one big round of applause. Not only for her presentation today, but she has been a force in the industry, helping our industry in many, many ways that, sometimes we just don't even see the impact that she has had on our industry in a very, very positive way, and she continues to move forward in that particular direction. So thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. As I was listening to Kim's presentation, it is so true, that's why I put a couple question marks, 3 question marks in this thing, developing a thriving practice in the new DOL. What is that? What does the DOL world look like? It's changing every single day, or we're starting to hear about new things every single day. Boy, how our world has changed in the last 8 days, right? Would you all agree? With all the things that have come about, irrespective of your political beliefs, and things like that, there is no doubt that we're probably going to continue to face this every single day for the next few months, so I am in full support of Kim's comment that it is better for us to be totally prepared, and we're probably 90% there, friends. That's the beauty about the suitability requirements that were imposed on us in 2010, and we already got bulk of those things ready. Now, if there is 10% left, let's get ready for that, and if it goes away, we'll all celebrate together, right? Would you all agree? So I think that's the thing that all of us here, particularly Kim and our organization, are trying to do, is to prepare us as an industry and get us ready so that as and when that situation comes around, we are in the best position, the driver's seat, if you will, to be able to step in whatever happens on April 10th of 2017. It always reminds me of a story that I read a little while ago. A young lady was very tired of all the things that life has been throwing at her, adverse circumstances, adverse conditions. One fine day, frustrated, she comes in and talks to her mom about, what, I feel like I just want to quit everything over here. This is just way too hard to deal with. And so the mom said, well, let's talk about this thing. Let's go to the kitchen over here. The mom says, we're going to do an experiment over here. And so she takes 3 pots of water and puts it on the kitchen stove and starts boiling the water. Once the water is boiling, she takes 3 different things. She takes a nice carrot and drops it into one of the pots. She takes an egg and drops it in another pot, and takes a bunch of coffee beans and drops it into the 3rd pot. Lets it boil for about 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, she shuts them off and pulls out the carrot. And the carrot is soft and wobbly. and she pulls out the egg, and the egg is hard boiled. And she takes a ladle of the water that has now been impacted by the coffee beans, and it's aromatic, wonderful smelling and tasting coffee. The daughter says, so Mom, what are you trying to show me over here? She says, dear daughter, I showed you 3 different circumstances which had the exact same adverse circumstances. Boiling water for 20 minutes. Exact same circumstances. They were adverse circumstances. The carrot, which went in strong, could not handle the adversity and became soft and mushy. An egg, which went in soft on the inside, hardened up with the same adversity. And the coffee beans had the courage to actually change the adversity itself. You guys with me on this thing?
Yeah.
Which one are we gonna be, friends? As an industry, we have typically been a change industry. We always move on to the right direction. Artie's gonna go get more coffee in that regard. But it just always makes me feel that, we have faced adversity, 151 was gonna come about, other things were gonna come about, suitability requirements and things, and we embrace everything and we move on. I mean, of course we have to fight these things out also. And as I said, if DOL rule completely goes away, we will all celebrate together, there's no doubt about that. But let's get prepared for it also. Does that make sense? All right, let's talk about a few things. Change, change is inevitable and is always constant. We'll always face change. There's never been a time in either our personal lives or our business lives where we have not faced change. Change, however, at the moment, at the time that change is happening, it always feels like it could bring some anxiety. It could bring some negative elements and things like that. And the main reason for that is because we don't know up front what the change is going to bring about. Majority of the times, because we're anticipating how it might be, and we have gotten used to the track that we're running on, we always feel that if the change comes about, it's going to impact us. It's going to disrupt our current way of operating, and it always feels a little bit nervous, it always feels uncomfortable. But many, many times, friends, change definitely can be very, very positive. We have seen in multiple areas, we might have been very scared of something, but once we put our arms around it, things started to look really better and good. And so, let's embrace change and see what comes out of the DOL rule. Will it be or will it not be? This is just my way of saying, every single day I wake up and I'm reading new articles and I have no idea, is it gonna happen? Is it not gonna happen? Is it gonna happen? Is it not gonna happen? And it's interesting, because it's different points of view. When you take a look at it from the point of view of the legislative actions that people might take and people who want to fight this rule, you get totally convinced. One gets totally convinced, I get totally convinced, oh yeah, this makes total sense. These guys are gonna go fight it, and this is gonna be completely repealed, or pushed back, or whatever the case might be. President Trump is gonna issue an executive order, and with an executive order, the new Secretary of Labor is gonna at least push the rule out about a year or so. All different kinds of conversations. Then amongst those are the conversations, well, wait a minute, he's a populist president. He's gonna at least look at both sides of the equation. He's gonna say, wait a minute, what was the first intent of this rule? To do a consumer protection beneficial thing for the consumers? He's not gonna throw it out. So you read all sorts of things that could come about. My point here is, the best thing for us to do is just, for the time being, we just shut it out. At least people who are not every day having to plan for it, we shut it out. We march forward for the next 4, 5 months, 6 months, and totally prepare as if the rule is going through. And on April 10th, if the thing has been shut off, then the thing has been shut, or if we know it beforehand. Let's say January 20th, the president gets inaugurated, and January 22nd, he issues an executive order, and the rule is gonna get pushed out by 2 years. Great, we don't have to worry about it. At least we'll know at that point in time. But up until that point in time, individuals like Kim and I are probably gonna continue to march forward in preparing for this and helping you prepare for this as if the rule is gonna go into effect April 10th, 2017. All right, the genie's out of the bottle. I think Kim mentioned it really, really well, is that some kind of a fiduciary impact is gonna continue to exist in the industry. You know, it's too late for us to now say, well, we don't have to do anything about this. Whether it is the SEC that comes out and imposes some rules and regulations from a fiduciary perspective, whether it is the rule has a shifting, but it continues to still exist in the same way. Things like, Kim mentioned 2 or 3 things very, very clearly, is record keeping and documentation. This makes perfect sense, friends. Why would we not do it? We want to do it, and particularly if you need the help, we will help in that regard. To be able to do appropriate record keeping and documentation, and that way, if there are ever any issues from the client's perspective, the client says, well, wait a minute, Arnie, you told me you were gonna do this, but this is not what's happening. Then hold on, let's go back, let's take a look at all of the documentation that the company that I work with represents, keeps, and properly engages us, and we'll keep it, you know, we'll be able to produce those at a moment's notice, and so it makes a lot of sense for us to be able to do that. Bill Clinton's story, I wanted to tell you a little bit about that. I was a rookie in the industry. What year did Bill Clinton become president? Was it 1992? 92, I think, yeah. I entered the industry in 1988. And I want to say it was 90 or 91, and this very, very unknown governor of Arkansas had suddenly thrown his hat in the ring saying, I think I want to be president of the United States, you know. And so I was attending a very large industry conference. I can't remember whether it was LIMRA or some other industry conference with 5,000 people sitting in this big room, and our keynote speaker is a gentleman by the name of Les Brown. I don't know if you guys have ever had an opportunity to hear. Kim is shaking her head. You know, Les comes up, and Les makes a prediction right in front of everybody. He said, I think Bill Clinton is going to be the next president of the United States. And everybody chuckling, you know, because A, the people had never heard of this guy, or B, they're thinking from a dinky little state called Arkansas, the governor of Arkansas. He was the lowest paid governor in the union at that point in time. He, I think, made $35,000 a year as governor of Arkansas. And so everybody's scratching their head and saying, what the heck is going on? He says, no, hold on, folks, let me tell you why. The reason why I think this guy is going to be the next president of the United States is because he is the most prepared, and he is acting the most presidential of anybody out there. Now, this is the time when he's still trying to get the Democratic ticket. He's not even contesting against then incumbent H.W. Bush. He's still in the midst of trying to win his Democratic confirmation, if you will. And so everybody's like, what are you talking about? And he says, when he comes on the stage, when he speaks about subject matters, when he's talking about certain things that he speaks about, he is the most presidential, and he is the most prepared. He has stepped into the shoes of the President of the United States, and he said, I'm ready. And lo and behold, of course, you know, Bill Clinton landed up becoming President of the United States. My point here is, friends, we need to step into this thing. Irrespective of what comes out of the DOL situation, we need to be ready. And I feel like we are, as an organization, as I'm going to show you here in just a minute, all the things that we're doing, we're helping you to get ready and get prepared and be there along with PFG. You know, we are formulating plans to be able to get you there. Prepare yourself for the future. I know Kim talked a lot about the advice, the best interest of the client, reasonable compensation, avoid conflicts. So I'm not going to go into any of those details. There's only one subject matter that often comes about and is of interest to you, and that's reasonable compensation. I think the gentleman in the back asked the question about what is reasonable, and Kim answered it best. You know, our legal team, as we have questioned them about what's, you know, reasonable compensation, of course, there are no definitive answers. But they described for us, they said, think about a scattergram. If we were to start taking all products, and there are 1,000 fixed index annuities out there, and we take the compensation and start throwing the compensation on a wall, it might come out from low end of, I don't know, 3% or 4% or something like that, to some outlying index annuities at 10 or 11% or something like that, whatever the case might be. But there's going to be a big number of them that are gonna be probably in that 6 to 8% range, 6 to 8.5% range and things like that. And their thought process is that that might be considered the, realm of reality for reasonableness, if you will. As they're saying, as long as you come in within that range. Now, defining that range may not be as easy. Several outside organizations are involved in it, and particularly it'll be good if someone who's not in our industry, as a neutral party, were to make a decision as to what's a reasonableness. I don't know, Morningstar or somebody else, I don't know who will step up and make that reasonableness assessment, if you will. But whoever does that assessment, it'd be good for us to get that assessment so that we can all move forward. And then the key question comes in, what all falls within the reasonableness? Because the other subject matter that Kim discussed, which is a subject matter, I'll just throw out, I don't know where this is going, is we talked about the fact that because Department of Labor has control over ERISA and IRAs, this rule only applies to ERISA money or IRA. Well, within that category, if we've got these fixed indexed annuities, then they fall into one camp where a financial institution that's supporting you has to sign an agreement with the client called the BIC agreement. And then there's the supposed fixed products, if you will. There'd be traditional products, there would be MIGAs, there'd be SPIAs and things like that, like Kim mentioned, fall into a slightly different category, 84-24. Fiduciary responsibility is still the same. Your compensation, though, is treated differently. Your compensation under the big side of the equation, we can not only pay you compensation, but we can also, as a financial institution, pay you certain additional things, some benefits, some things as long as they fall, again, within the reasonableness of overall compensation. But Kim is absolutely right. When it comes to the 84-24 side, i.e., when it comes to those traditional fixed products, commission is the only thing that we as a financial institution, or your IM or anybody else can offer you. We cannot offer you any other kind of fringe benefits that might be considered compensation or monetary in effect and so on and so forth. So the key question that comes in my mind, as I'm going through this process and developing plans for 2017, I'm saying, I'd like to have an incentive trip. If I can have an incentive trip, it's okay to count your BIC dollars, but not your $84-24. Can you imagine how difficult this is to try and manage this whole process? So the question comes in, let me ask this group, what do you guys think? What if a financial institution were to say, we're just gonna go ahead and sign a BIC agreement, even if it happens to be 84-24 products? How do you guys feel about that? You guys with me on this? Yeah. If I sign the BIC agreement on all of your qualified dollars, then I can potentially offer you some additional benefits over and above your normal compensation. Only the financial institution. So again, we don't have to have answers to these things, but I thought, I'll just throw it out for you guys to think. Certainly talk to folks at PFG and share your views with them so that we know which way are you leaning, which way do you think we should be going, and so on and so forth as we start to build our plans. Does that make sense? I just wanted to spend a little time on that compensation aspect of it. Any questions on this thing so far that we've talked about? Kim, question.
I don't have a question, but you reminded me of something. Back in 151A days, suitability had been happening since 2007, because 2007, because CARES had voluntarily started it. One by voluntarily going down a fiduciary path today could make it lots easier for us to negotiate a positive outcome, because we can demonstrate as an industry we're already doing it.
That's a good point.
You reminded me of it, thank you.
That's a good point, thank you. Lynn?
Regardless of what happens politically, legislatively, it's happened in Australia, it's happened in the UK. Do you feel that it's going to happen at some point, no matter what?
I feel like fiduciary rule is definitely going to come about in one way, shape, or form or the other. Now, it's only a matter of timing, and it's a matter of which regulatory body will be supervising us for that fiduciary aspect. That part we don't know. whether it be Department of Labor, whether it be SEC, which organization, which body is going to supervise us, we don't know. But some type of, if genie's out the bottle, some type of, oh, thank you very much, Paul, I appreciate that. Some type of fiduciary responsibility, functionality, and subject matters are gonna be similar to the ones that we're talking. That's why I keep on insisting why we should really get ready for it. The reasonableness of compensation, things being proven to be in the best interest of the client, if you will, documentation and record keeping. We just need to get ready for all of these things, and then who implements the rule will become almost like a moot point. So yeah, I do believe something or the other will happen. Timing up in the air. No time. Questions, comments, thoughts? Excuse me. All right.
You got through the whole thing without a drink.
How to prepare? Well, very, very simple. You know, obviously, first and foremost, you know, PFG, your IMO partner, they are definitely working with us very, very closely and working with Kim very closely to try and bring all of the different valuable opportunities to you so that you can evaluate, you can consider all of these things to see what and how makes, you know, perfect sense for you to do business in the future. Our biggest thing has been, ever since we stepped into doing research about becoming a financial institution, it was trying to really understand what the requirements were and how to protect you best. Like Kim said, one of the worst penalties that could potentially come about is up to 100% of the original premium as excise tax. IRS has the ability to come after you for up to 100% as excise tax. Question?
Based on that, go back to Kim's question, would our Arizona emissions coverage cover that if that was to eventually follow?
Potentially. Question, Kim?
If, it depends on what, if the transaction is prohibited and you were deemed to have not met your fiduciary duty, your coverage would not help you.
What if you met your fiduciary duty, but it was determined that it was still prohibited?
Your coverage would cover you.
Okay.
So the key question is, you know, what comes about? And one of the worst things that I personally absolutely hate, and I think Kim might agree with me, that has come about as a result of how DOL has implemented this rule, is in the big agreement, we have to tell the client they have the right to sue us. If they find anything that we did not meet our obligations appropriately to be in the best interest of the client and things like that. Well, imagine, it's only a matter of time. It's not a if, it's a when these attorneys get a hold of any kind of a class, if you will, where they think, oh my God, you know, these insurance agents sold this product in an inappropriate way and we got, you know, so many of these clients, we're gonna go sue and things like that. That's why the system that Kim has developed, the one that we're developing, that's the important element, is how do we protect you the best? What kind of record keeping are we doing? What kind of documentation? And what kind of clearly stated sales and compliance processes we're putting into place. We are developing an integrated sales and compliance process at this point in time that will track everything from the very beginning, from the time you start engaging a customer, all the way till the time the transaction has been completed. All of it is gonna be appropriately documented, appropriately done, and we're gonna help you all along the way. In other words, there are gonna be questions that we're gonna ask the clients, you know, did you mean this, did you say this, and so on and so forth, and based upon that, the recommendations are gonna be made. Does it mean it could be a little bit different way than you're operating today? Potentially. You may already be doing, say for example, you know, a needs analysis is gonna become very, very important. You know, we're gonna ask you to do a needs analysis in every single case. You know, majority of the times you do a needs analysis anyway after you've done the seminar or however you get in front of the clients, and when you meet with them, you do a needs analysis. Well, this time the needs analysis might be a documentation needs analysis, so at the back end, we can keep this thing and know whenever anybody questions us in the form of a lawsuit, we're immediately able to pull out the paperwork and say, here's how we will defend you in that particular process. All right, so your IMO partner, obviously, and then financial institution partner, and we obviously have, as Mike correctly pointed out, we have applied to the Department of Labor to be a financial institution, but also, on top of that, we have a registered investment advisor called On Point, that in case this thing gets dragged out or something like that, we've got a fallback position with our registered investment advisor, which by definition, DOL's definition, is already a financial institution. We are completely getting ready to be totally in place by April 10th, which means if you choose to seek us as a financial institution, we will have the appropriate trainings in place and things like that, starting on 1st of March, more than likely for the month of March, 1st of March through the 30th of March. And that complete training is not only gonna be in as far as the integrated sales and compliance system that I talked about, but also on top of that, all of our products and services and things like that that we're gonna offer, and I'm gonna go into those in just a minute here. I count my donut time. You're good. Okay. All right. PFG, of course, as you all know, is your one-stop shop. You get everything from the good folks at PFG, your marketing programs, support services, education and training, illustration calculator support, case design and analysis. All of these things are currently offered to you by PFG, and that will continue to happen. Our goal is to entirely keep the structure and the system in exactly the way you know it today. We are going to become the financial institution, are going to help our IMO, your IMO partner here, to be able to be ready to continue to offer all of these services that they have been providing you anyway, just in a more robust way, just in a more way that fulfills the obligations of what DOL wants us from the rule perspective and things like that. So please keep in touch with PFG about any kind of changes that are happening. Mike's got a great website already built in there, so he's going to continue to make all the changes that are necessary on that and keep you informed. But also at the same time keep on telling you about all the new things that are coming about and what we're hearing in the industry. From Legacy's perspective, we have applied for the DOL, and as I mentioned earlier on, we have OnPoint as our fallback position. So let's talk a little bit about what are some of the things that we're doing to get ready for the DOL rule in particular. Today, as many of you know, Legacy has two companies with whom we develop proprietary products. It's Americo and it's FGL. And Legacy then distributes these products through an organization like PFG and individuals like yourself over here. And our goal over here is we recognize and clearly understand that two companies as a financial institution is not enough breadth of products to offer you if you're going to be working with us. We realize and recognize that we need to provide you with a whole basket of products. And basket of products that, based upon our integrated sales and compliance system, will make recommendations so that you get to choose some products for your clients. Like Kim was mentioning earlier on, there are some carriers that are higher rated, some lower rated. There are carriers that might offer a stronger guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefit than others. Some carriers who might provide an enhanced death benefit and others may not, and so on and so forth. There are multitudes of things. So our goal, and by the way, let me speak on the flip side. Financial institutions that might choose to offer a plethora of products may find themselves in a difficult position of appropriately helping you do your CYA. Forgive my language over here. But if they have to protect you, if they have to help you be in a good position to be able to prove at some point in time, when that lawsuit were to come, that you're going to be able to clearly articulate and demonstrate that amongst the category of products available to you, you made the best recommendation, or made the recommendation that was in the best interest of this particular client. In order for you to prove that, we feel that we have to pick a reasonable number of companies that are going to really provide you with an entire basket of products that are going to give you the ability to offer a lot of choices to your clients, but choices that are within a reasonable range such that you don't necessarily have to worry about, oh my God, I did have access to XYZ product, should I have offered that? And could this client come in and gonna tell me, wait a minute, you had access to this product, but you never offered me that. Instead, you sold me the one that had a 7% commission on this particular product. We want to remove that conflict of interest for you. We want to find 5 to 7 to 8 companies with multitudes of products. Let's say if there are 5 products available from 8 companies, you'll have all of these products available, and every time you run our system, there's going to be recommendation made in those categories. Does that make sense, by the way, first of all? So that's the whole idea behind building the list. And all of the carriers that we're working with, at last count, we're working with 9 carriers at this point in time. in terms of building our proprietary products as well as offering non-exclusive products, as I said over here. And these products are gonna be offered to you on a platform irrespective of how you choose to do business with them. What I mean by that is all of the products are gonna be under one umbrella. They are gonna, when you do a needs analysis, the products that are gonna be recommended by the system could be exclusive to legacy, non-exclusive to legacy. It doesn't matter. From your perspective, you can offer all of those products to the clients. It doesn't matter from your perspective. Our goal, on the other hand, is in order to make you competitive in the marketplace, we'll continue to design legacy innovative products so that you can continue to offer those innovative products anyway on top of the other ones that are gonna be made available to you. Well-known branded carriers, all of the carriers are A- or better rated. And earlier on, somebody was asking me, Miju, so when do you think you might be able to announce? Our goal is to announce the first of the carriers early part of next year, and also to start sharing something about the products by February with you guys. The very first of the products will be probably launched and introduced in the market in the first quarter of 2017. And from there on forward, we'll probably be launching several of the products, probably 30 to 60 days. Now, that is not to say that as far as the breadth of products is concerned, we'll have everything ready on April 10th, 2017, if the rule goes into effect, as far as the products that are needed by you to make recommendations to your clients. Make sense? Proprietary products, both qualified, non-qualified market, and as I mentioned, exclusive and non-exclusive products, particularly if there are companies that we're talking to who already have a very strong SPIA or a DIA or other 8424 products, there's no need for us to mess with them. We just want to bring those products to the platform, if you will, to make them available through PFG for you guys to be able to offer to your clients. In that regard. Any questions on this thing so far as to how this is going to work? All right. Obviously, as a financial institution, we will be signing the BIC agreement wherever the BIC agreement is required, and we'll help you with the 8424 products where the 8424 products are needed, which is your fixed and other types of fixed products. So traditional products with GLWB riders, some of the companies are starting to develop those types of products. Not many of them exist today in the marketplace, but I believe we'll see a few of these on a traditional chassis, i.e. a declared rate chassis, a guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefit. But of course, MIGAs and SPIAs and DIAs, will support all of those. And of course, sign the BIC agreement when it comes to the fixed index annuities. Service offerings of value-added programs. We are looking at multitudes, at this point in time, 7 different value-added programs. And what do I mean by value-added programs? As salespeople, one of the biggest challenges that we have all the time is the ability to be able to get in front of good qualified clients. We're trying to find new and unique ways to put you in front of clients. Obviously, whatever's working for you, if you're doing seminars today, if you do client appreciation dinners today, or whatever the methodology might be that you're getting in front of your clients, continue to do that. That's working for you, absolutely move forward with that. But boy, wouldn't it be great, I'll take one example. You guys have a guy who lives in your town over here called Tom Hegna. How many people have heard of Tom Hegna? Many of you guys have heard of Tom Hegna, Well, wouldn't it be great if I asked Tom Hegna to come in and do a consumer seminar for 5 of you guys here in Phoenix? Let's say we picked 5 people, and Tom Hegna came out. We took on all the responsibility of advertising, inviting the clients, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he does one, in Scottsdale and one in Glendale, or whatever the case might be, a couple seminars on a given day, where you get all of the leads from that particular program. Would that make sense? I thought you guys would like it, And I think this is just an example that I'm giving you. We are currently working on 7 such programs that are going to be made available to the people who are with Legacy's financial institution in that world. We recognize and realize that that's one area where most people continue to need new ways to get in front of qualified clients. And so we definitely are working on all those value-added programs. And of course, ease of doing business. Obviously, we continue to develop new ways. One of the things that you will see in our integrated sales and compliance system, as I mentioned, is we will be going starting April 10th with all of our carriers all of our carriers, bar one, I should say, who's still struggling with some technology issues and things like that, but majority of our carriers are gonna go to EAP. And so it's gonna become so much easier for you to be able to submit the business and things like that. Now, when I say EAP, every once in a while, people get nervous about it, particularly those who are not used to using EAP up until now. EAP does not mean that you only can take your iPad or your laptop in front of the clients and ask questions on a laptop or an iPad. It doesn't mean that. Of course, if you want to do it that way, it'll be very, very easy, because if a particular question is not satisfied, then the system is going to tell you, whoa, hold on, where are you going? Come back over here, let's fill this thing out, and so on and so forth. However, if you're used to taking information initially on a yellow pad, or if you're used to taking information on a regular paper app or something like that, and then come back to your office or your home or whatever, scan it, put it through the document and things like that, at the back end, it comes to us via an EAP solution, if you will. We'll train you on all of these things, and I just wanted to share that with you, that we're putting into place technology that is definitely gonna make things a lot easier for you to be able to do business in the future. So ease of doing business in that. Questions, comments, thoughts? Okay. So what is the legacy advantage? Why would you want to consider, joining hands with Legacy as a financial institution? First and foremost, of course, support system from your IMO. Obviously, as you know, we have chosen to do, over the last 24 years of our history, we have chosen to do business only through independent marketing organizations like PFG. So you have a dual support here as a financial institution, not only from us, but also from the IMO that represents you over here. Education and training. We're going to put a lot of emphasis on education and training. Education and training on our products, education and training on our services, education and training on the value-added programs that we develop and design, education and training on the integrated compliance and sales system, so that it becomes very easy for you to do a lot of business. And all of these programs are going to be done both in our Petaluma headquarters, but also nationwide. We're going to get out there and be able to do that. Many of them are also going to be available electronically, either through your IMO or directly through Legacy, so that you can just be doing it from the ease of your own home or your office and convenience of your own office or home. Fact-finding and needs analysis are automatically going to be included in our package, so that every single time a stage comes in. A lot of people have asked me, they said, does that mean that the fact-finding or needs analysis that I do today, or the way I approach my clients, is obsolete? I cannot do that in the future? Absolutely not. You can continue to do the business the way you do today, as long as at the end of the day, our fact finder and needs analysis is filled out off of the information that you have gathered and the way you have gathered, because it's absolutely imperative that we do the back record keeping and documentation in the way the system is structured for everybody's protection. We all have to think about protection in this new world. It's your protection and it's our protection. So we definitely want to be able to do that. Needs-based recommendations, EAP, I mentioned that already, and then obviously documentation and record keeping in this new world. You're going to hear a lot about documentation and record keeping from both Kim and I. Lynn?
Yeah, there's a lot of crossover between the needs analysis and suitability. Carriers going to merge that function, or are they going to be two separate?
Yeah, very good question, Lynn. I mean, it's an interesting one. We have talked with every single carrier about this particular subject matter. Technically, at the end of the day, the responsibility of suitability is still on the carrier's shoulders. Even when a financial institution exists and the financial institution does everything that a typical suitability requirement might be, even if we are asking all the questions, even if we are doing all of the stuff and things like that. Like, say for example, I'll take an actual workflow example. Let's say one of you guys is doing seminars. So the first step of it is going to be, how do you do your seminars? Well, is there a presentation that you do? Is there a flyer that you send out to the clients? Is there a radio ad? Is there a TV ad, et cetera, et cetera? All of those things would have to be going through the financial institution to get it approved and so on and so forth. But let's say we've gone through and gone past that, and you've gone in and done your seminar, you've got your clients, you book your appointments, you start to do the needs analysis based upon the thing that we have done. We will train you and guide you in our education platform as to what are the things that you need to be looking for carrier by carrier by carrier as far as their suitability requirement is concerned. So my expectation, Lynn, at the end of the day, is 99% of the cases, once we have scrubbed the app as it comes in, we should not ever hear from the carrier, this does not meet my suitability requirement. But could it, 1% chance, could it happen? Yeah, it could happen, because at the end of the day, it is still their responsibility. It doesn't relieve them of their responsibility from a suitability perspective. One of the biggest things is not every carrier, as you guys know, publishes its suitability requirement. They've been notorious for that. They don't want to publish, but of course, we're forcing all of these guys and saying, you need to give us the suitability requirements, even if you insist that they stay at the financial institution level. But you need to give us, so we can do all of that requirement. We do not want you guys coming back and saying, oh, this does not meet our suitability requirement. I don't know if I answered your question or not, but most of them, I feel at the financial institution level, will take care of it. It might be a 1% chance. Good question, good.
Nico, I might say, just for a lot of you agents that don't know, one of the things that Legacy already has in place is very, very powerful, is they've got a team of gals that literally will scrub an app. We can send an app pre-sent before it ever goes to the carrier, and they'll send it back with their scrubbing. I mean, we can scrub it all day at the office, but sometimes a new set of eyes looking at something, they've already got a group of people that scrub apps for us and tell us whether they're gonna meet their requirements or not. So it's frequently, we can find out if there's a problem, we know ahead of time already, and they're just enhancing that platform.
Paul, thank you for mentioning that. That is absolutely true today. Amy and Jen, I mean, we've got some fantastic people who do a terrific job, as many of you guys know, and we are expanding that team, by the way, to get ready, because we want to be as robust in that area as we possibly can be, because we know there's already an increased responsibility on you from a fiduciary perspective. We don't want to add to that by the app coming back to you guys saying, this is not acceptable or that is not acceptable. We want to catch it at the early stages to the extent we can. So we are definitely expanding that particular area in a big way. All right. Now, of course, what are the next steps over here? And the first thing I've always said is, while several of us are still trying to work and develop, ways in which to get ready for DOL, most important thing for us is we want to stay on our current business. 6 months, i.e., well, 5 months really. Is it 5 months? No, even 4 months. December through the end of March. I keep losing track of time over here. We've got an opportunity to pick up some good quality business at this point in time on the products and services that exist today. And we've got some great programs going on right now for you guys. We've got a new app bonus program called the Bonus Blitz program. For those of you who know about it, congratulations, get going on that. But if you don't know, certainly touch base with the folks at PFG and they can tell you about what a great program this particular program is, and it's available for 90 days starting on 1st of November. Next one is 1.75 million will qualify you for Sonoma Uncorked, a producer incentive trip that we have designed specifically. It ends in March, qualification period ends in March, so that you still have the ability for a very, very small qualification amount. And I think many of you who have been to the Legacy trips know that we do a pretty nice trip in that particular regard. So Sonoma Uncorked is in Sonoma at the Fairmont Hotel in our backyard. Petaluma, Legacy is located in Petaluma, California, and also in Sonoma County. So we would love to be your hosts over there. Talk to PFG and they can give you a lot more detail about that. And at this point in time, Paul, if you'd be kind enough to come pull up my other records that I have. Legacy and PFG will continue to monitor the progress of the rules, stay in touch with PFG. But put up a couple of these slides. If you haven't seen some of our products and services that exist today that are available right now and the power, so besides the fact that we've got all the three of them, if you, one at a time is fine. So let's pull this thing out. We've got, say for example, a Liberty Mark product at this point in time. So keep that there. No, at the top end, if you would. We've got a product which is a 7-year product, 7-year walkaway, friends. Fixed indexed annuity with Americo, very highly rated carrier, and which if a client put in $100,000, first and foremost, they would have a minimum walkaway guarantee at the end of 7 years of $107,000 and change. They can walk away simply with $107,000 on a guaranteed basis if the client's account did 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 for 7 years in a row. But the last 7 years in this product, if they had this product, they would have walked away with $182,000 and change. And over the last 30 years, one of the best 7-year time period, they would have walked away with $233,000 and change. Very, very powerful product, and by the way, it doesn't hurt the fact that on a 7-year chassis product, you get to make 6% commission on this particular product. Not a bad deal. Powerful product, exists today, sell a lot of it, friends. Sell a lot of it, because on top of this, you've got the app bonus program and other programs going, as I talked about. Mike?
We just took a case for just under $600,000 on this product this week.
Let's try another one.
By the way, that flyer is in their folder.
The flyer's in your folder. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. Here's another one of these things, once again, the same product. I think it's a Liberty Mark. Yeah, this is a Liberty Mark optimizer fee ad, if you will. And it basically talks about the fact that, are you offering your clients a historical average annual net return of 8.04%? The power of the Liberty Mark optimizer fee is, we know that many of these products have index annuities these days have an annual cap on an annual point-to-point of what? What's the average annual point-to-point cap that you're seeing out there?
4 to 4.5, maybe 3 to
4%, right? Let's put it that way. If it's 3 to 4%, how much is the maximum amount your client can earn on that product?
3 to 4%.
That's the 3 to 4%, right? It's a simple. And in order for them to earn 3 to 4%, every single year, the S&P would have had to have been what? More than 3 to 4%.
Right.
Bar none. Period, end of story. And yet, they would earn 3 or 4% average annualized. Here we've got the products where, because of the legacy design, because of the power of the optimizer fee that we have included into the product, we've got products that have upside. The previous one that I showed you, where the client would have walked away with $182,000, that's in your folders. That's just not possible with any other index annuity out there, friends. Because of the 3 or 4% average annualized, cap and so on and so forth. The reason why you have is because of Legacy's design. So I ask you to please connect with all the folks at PFG and ask them the question, how the product works, what the powers are, and so on and so forth. The final ad, if you would, please, is about our bonus blitz program. I wanted to just show you, all it takes is 3 paid apps, friends. 3 paid apps for you to earn $750 and $200 for every app thereafter during a 90-day time period, starting 1st of November through the end of January. Every single app, you should be taking a look at Legacy Design America products or Legacy Design FGL products. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that. Mike?
Okay, what I'd like to do for just the next few minutes is, Kim, maybe would you mind coming up front, and if any of you have any questions you'd like to ask either one of these folks about DOL, I know, and I'll start it off. A question we're still getting is, do agents need to have a 65 once DOL goes into effect to sell products?
No. The DOL, we asked the DOL to address that very specifically. They did so in that FAQ. That is not a requirement under the rule. However, IMOs might require it, carriers might say so, other people could impose that or make that requirement out there, but the rule itself does not require it.
Yeah, absolutely. You do not require it. It is not required. Obviously, if it helps you to better represent your client, if it makes you feel like, when you're 65 registered and your clients have a better feeling of, wow, you are 65 registered and things like that. As I mentioned earlier on, we have our on-point registered investment advisory firm and things like that. But definitely, it's not required by the DOL. Question, comment?
You mentioned about seminars and stuff, which is the only thing that I do. So, and everything I do in my seminars talks about generics. It doesn't talk about products in specific. The only thing is how they can enhance their income. So those type of seminars still need to be run by you?
The financial institutions are being asked under DOL rule to take a look at everything from A to Z, from the very first time you start engaging a client in any which way, shape, or form. The financial institution needs to know about what's going on, or is responsible for at least any of the conversation.
So the
You're
mailer and the
effective-
PowerPoint.
Say that again?
The mailer and the PowerPoint.
The mailer and the PowerPoint.
And probably your script,
I was just gonna say, so you need the whole script. too.
Sarah?
just to protect yourself.
Yeah.
That-
You know, a lot of you, maybe you're only doing insurance, you're doing insurance only now, but I know in the case of Barney was registered investment advisor for years. He carried all the licenses and he's dropped those. But really what we're into, folks, is we're gonna be needing to supervise your activity very similarly to what a broker dealer does with their registered reps. And that is part of this DOL rule. And it's to protect you, as well as PFG, as well as the financial institution that's signing the big agreements. One of the things that I learned when I attended a 4-hour training on DOL with NAFA, National Association of Fixed Annuities, which they have a class that I attended in Vegas. It was a light bulb went on. You know, we operate under, today, if somebody's unhappy, it typically goes to arbitration, correct? And it's settled that way. And so somebody said, well, so up today, people can't sue you. Yes, they can. Under today's rules, you can still be sued by a client. The reason why that doesn't happen very often is because under today's rules, the attorneys cannot include their fees in the settlement if they win. Now, under DOL, then that's why the exposure to class actions is so great, because the attorneys now can roll their fees into the entire lawsuit. That's the big difference. That's a total game changer. One of the things we hope through legislation to get changed with this rule. And frankly, if a few of these major things are fixed with this rule, it's probably a good rule. I mean, who can say it's bad to do what's in the best interest of your client? You're already doing that. And it really burns me for those that are fiduciaries via CFPs or 65s that hold themselves out there like they're at a higher level than we are, because we're not. Because it's just not true. The people that work with us, conduct themselves in that manner already. But they won't be able to use that against you anymore.
And I would add to that, if you're going to do your 65, or I'm a CFP and I'm about ready to drop it, by the way, folks. I do not like what I see coming out of that board. So, but, I was 1993 earned it first woman in Wisconsin, and it's gonna be gone by December 31st. But the point is if don't do that, don't get those CFP or 65 if you don't intend on doing financial planning.
Right.
I talked to someone on the phone who said, I'm just gonna get it so I can have the conversations on source of funds, not be worried about it, not gonna do any real planning, or I'm not even gonna bother with the investment side. That is gonna get you in trouble.
Yeah.
Because now you're putting yourself out as an investment advisor, but you're not actually providing the services, and most state regulators would come after you.
Well, 2 years ago, it did in Arkansas. Two guys that decided they wanted to do that for the very reason they wanted to not be against compliance and by advising people, never put any assets under management. They were sued by the state of Arkansas and lost as putting themselves out as financial advisors and never writing anything but fixed annuities.
You're right, Paul. Remember the Coopers in Illinois? They had a separate financial planning, somebody who handled the investments, and they didn't, and they were still nailed because they were putting themselves out as being a financial planner.
5 years ago, I went to a seminar with a company in Las Vegas where they had the chief legal counsel from the Iowa Department of Insurance there when it was first being floated. Get your 65, get your 65. And he said, don't touch it and put yourself under another whole level of scrutiny for suitability if you're not gonna sell at-risk investments. Don't touch it.
And
I believe that's still true.
That was a good question in the back.
Paul, did you have a question?
Yeah, earlier you were talking about the reasonable compensation, and you mentioned
You know, there could be a product, not that they are all alike, but one could be 4% and another one could be 5%, and you recommended the 5%, and there could be reasons why, strength of company and such. But part of that is, you know, we contract with whomever we want to contract with. Is a way around that is you only contract with the highest commission paid carriers? I mean, are we held to recommending the best in the market even though we don't have a contract with that company?
No, you are
No.
not.
Okay.
DOL is very clear on that part, piece of it.
You don't have to have the whole universe of products available.
So we have that in our control by contracting with whom we'd like.
As long as you materially disclose that you're contracting.
And
Well, that's one of the things that we're trying to do at Legacy is to try and, as a financial institution, bring in that appropriate level of
Mix.
product availability and a carrier availability, so that it's not too much and it's not too little. You certainly want your independence, so we want to bring you enough carriers out there to be able to provide good quality products to your clients. But at the same time, we don't want to confuse the issue that you have 50 other carriers available and access to, and suddenly, you know, you can't decide which product you offer or something like that.
Don't we lose that ability to contract all over? Don't you have to have one financial institution anyways?
You know what, it's not an insistence up until now by DOL, but it's looking like most of the financial institutions that are out there are saying, in order for them to be able to do justice to you, protect you better, protect us better, you should be associated with one financial institution.
As what I've read, you no longer really can run to ABC because they have a hot product,
Correct.
and here,
Correct.
and use Legacy where it fits.
Right.
so just to comment on that, the jury is still out on that to some degree, but what we all have to realize, ladies and gentlemen, is that ultimately the insurance companies are who is in the driver's seat. Right now, Paul, you can go out and contract with any insurance company that you want to sell their product, and as long as, you know, they accept you to sell it, you can represent that product. I'm just telling you that these insurance companies are going, when this is all settled and we get closer, and nobody needs to make any choices today. I mean, that's one thing I want to make completely clear. But between now and April, we're going to have to make some decisions, and it may be to choose a financial institution that you're going to place all of your business with. That may be a choice. Another choice may be to be able to operate still independently with carriers that are willing to let you market their products with maybe using an assess-best system like Kim is developing, with a large third-party financial institution that would sign the BIC agreement for you. These are all things that are being explored and looked into and developed, that as we stand here today, we don't know the answers for certain. They will become clear, hopefully, than mud between now and April 10th. So that's why we're doing this today. That's why we're developing websites and monitoring everything, so we can keep you informed, so when the time comes that you have to make a choice, you know what the choices are and you can make the best one for yourself.
When you say one financial institution, are you referring to one IMO?
Well, it could be an IMO. I mean, if you look today, the only people that are financial institutions today are RIAs, banks, broker dealers, and insurance companies. And if you look at that, what do every one of them have in common? They all report to a regulatory authority above them: SEC, FINRA, Banking Authority, Insurance Authority. And so for an IMO, PFG, if we want to become a financial institution, first of all, and you guys can jump in here if I'm wrong, but DOL doesn't even have a formal application process for an IMO to apply for financial institution status. There's about two law firms that have developed a form, if you will, that most of these IMOs, and there's about 18 of them now, that have submitted paperwork to the DOL to be approved financial institutions. I think it's very likely that the only ones that are going to be approved financial institutions are the ones like the Legacies that have an RIA or a broker-dealer or both already Because what DOL is planning to do, Kim, you know this better than I, is to come out with a set of guidelines that is gonna be required for you to be able to sign that big agreement and be considered kosher as a financial institution. That has not happened yet. Is that?
That is correct. There's two pieces of that are important. The rule does require in itself, as does ERISA, that the DOL cannot just appoint a financial institution or assign financial institution status. What they must do, and this is on like page 3 of the rule, that they must provide a criteria, a list of things that have to be taken care of and be done to be a financial institution. That list has to go to the Secretary of Treasury. The Secretary of Treasury must approve that list and make sure it's in the best interest of customers and Americans and all that stuff. Once the Secretary of Treasury approves that list, it has to go back to the DOL for a formal rulemaking process with comment period. And then once that is done, the DOL then gets to say, okay, here's the criteria, here's what's approved, the comment period is over, we make it this way, and this is what you have to demonstrate to be a financial institution. So it's a process, is the point.
So a few years back, there were some companies that was like B-rated. So if you wrote their product, for each product you wrote, they issued an E&O coverage for that product. What's the chance these insurance companies are gonna do the same thing with this kind of a deal? Where they're gonna sign off individually, assuming that deal met the criteria? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
I'm not sure.
Well, in other words, they fall under the vice.
The insurance company
Yeah.
signs the BIC agreement themselves, and there may
That's
be
right.
some companies that they have to do that because of their rating. And I know Niju has some, and Kim too probably will have some.
So I do believe that there might be a few lower rated insurance companies out there who, if they have difficulty selling their products through financial institutions, might say, you know what, the only choice I have is I'll sign the big agreement, I'll take the fiduciary responsibility along with you, the advisor, if you will, and then you'll do those. But I still feel like that might be a difficult situation. We are trying to figure out how to work with those types of companies to be able to provide an appropriate area for them to articulate. So somebody might be a B-rated carrier, but their GLWB might be stronger than an A-rated carrier's GLWB. Is there a good reason? Is that in the best interest of the client? Possibly, yes. And things like that. So we're looking at all of those things to try and see
B
where.
versus B.
Let's not
plus plus
forget
is a
Executive
difference,
Life
too.
was A+
Yes.
rated in
Yes.
1990.
Comes
so-
under, you know and all.
I think there are 2-3 hands over here, Lynn.
In the process that you just laid out for approval of a financial institution, I mean, we all know how government works. I mean, to me, the way you said it, sounds like there's no way anybody will be approved by April.
Well, it's gonna be challenging, because of, first of all, the transition, we got a whole new thing coming. You know, Perez is either gonna go, you know, by way of the prairie, hopefully, or, you know, just exit stage left, but, we're gonna have a new treasury, we're gonna have a new deal. Sorry, can we edit that out? So, and, you know, I think he's being considered for DNC as well, so we're not gonna have him January 22nd. Will we have somebody? We hope so. But it is gonna be a challenge to have that done by April, but to counter that, I think if I was betting Mike, and I'm a very conservative risk person, I'll bet you $1 that we have a delay. I think
Well,
we're
they have
gonna
to kick
have a
it down the
delay.
road.
It's not gonna be April 10th.
Yeah.
I can't guarantee that, but I think very strongly that we'll probably have a delay, which will allow the financial institutions the time they need.
I was on a NAFA deal or something one time on the internet where they're talking about that. While they probably will kick it down the road, the law is still in effect in April.
Yeah.
So they'll be able to attorneys will be able to come back to that date.
Well,
That's what I heard.
yeah, everybody's supposed to be in compliance by the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, correct?
2018.
So there's kind of a period of where everybody, as you're working towards meeting all of the requirements, but you may not be there yet. However, the rule becomes effective April 10th, so if we don't have any financial institutions approved to sign the BIC agreements on April 10th, effectively, you know, what do we do? We're out of business. It's a real significant
But
issue.
an executive order can delay the rule, can change the implementation date.
You may
And Obama did that
Yes.
with the Bush regulation on fiduciary. So, doing that, but an executive order can change that April 10 date.
And just to add to that, first of all, I agree with what Kim is saying, you know, all of these things are indicating more than anything else that the rule will get pushed out. But if for some unknown reason, those of us who have applied to become a financial institution cannot get the status as a financial institution by April, let's say, and on April 10th, 2017, the rule still goes into effect, many of us are still planning on parallel paths to still be a financial institution anyway, because we have a registered investment advisory firm, you know. So we'll be ready. It's not our desired path, believe me. I mean, I want Legacy Marketing Group to be the financial institution, not On Point. But nonetheless, we'll be ready to handle your business on April 10th, no matter what the circumstances are.
I would like to point out real quick, because I
Sure.
didn't do a good job, Niju did a much better job. That Assess Best has our own RIA designated financial institution that can be utilized as well. Legacy, of course, if you go through Legacy, you'll be covered through them, but we do have that in place for our Assess Best users.
Bob?
Don't most, carriers not cover your business that's below A minus?
No, today it's not, it's typically not solely on the best rating. There's a number of B double plus carriers that have ratings with S&P or other agencies, or they have financials that where the E&O will still allow less than an A minus to be covered.
Yeah,
But you do have to make sure that that's the case.
Our NAFID coverage used to be at that stipulation.
Right.
Most
Depends
of
on
them
the
are B
carrier,
plus
the
plus and
E&O
above,
carrier.
right?
Most, yes.
F&G's okay
F&G's okay from what perspective?
for the E&O insurance?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, for the one you buy through.
There was a question in the back.
Yeah. I am a 65 licensed rep. I have some respectful disagreements with some of the verbiage being on that end of the room. Because I think it's just actually really licensed to carry in general, if you want to be in this business for more than 5 years. With regard to On Point, do you have more information about the models, portfolio management, what that's going to look like for those who want to have 65 or want to get?
Absolutely. Who do you work with at PFG?
Just came on board recently with Paul.
Got it. You're in
Paul and Jody,
Paul
yeah.
can give you a lot of information.
And to Jim's comment, what he was saying, and I would absolutely agree with him, is you plan on being in this business long-term, 5 years or more, and then, I think it's a wise decision on your part to consider becoming a 65 and learning how to do assets under management, and making that a part of your career. And one of the reasons is, even though today, under DOL, you do not have to have a 65 to sell fixed index annuities, I'm telling you folks, down the road, when SEC issues their fiduciary rules, it's probably going to encompass all types of financial products and investments. And it's very likely that at some point, you will need more than just an insurance-only license to sell certainly annuity products. So I absolutely agree, you shouldn't do it just so that you can sell fixed index annuities, but I do believe that it is a very high, a good career path for those that want to be in this business long-term. Further your education and learn how to do assets under management. I've rarely sat in front of clients that had retirement savings where we were going to take 30 or 40% of those to guarantee, to fill an income gap, that didn't want us to also handle the other 60 or 70% of their assets if we had developed a relationship. So at the very worst, very best case, you're just leaving a bunch of money on the table. The very worst case, you've got another advisor involved that may not think the same way you do about the 30% you're trying to help the client with. And I would also say that PFG does have some very quality 65s that would potentially be willing to partner with those of you that only are insurance only to make sure that you do the best job for the client, you are protected on that side when you're meeting with the client. We would be happy to discuss that with you if you would like to talk about it. The last thing I want to say, and then we've got time for a couple more questions. Somebody asked me, Mike, why did you develop a DOL website? Why are you putting on a session like this where we're inviting you in and streaming it to another 70 advisors? The reason why is because we want you to know that we're staying on top of this thing and we know what's going on. We have people like this that are in our ear every day saying, this is what's happening, this is what you need to do to prepare. And the reason is because the big IMOs out there, that all of you know who they are, that have all applied for financial institution status, trust me, because I know them, I've had conversations with them, I've heard them speak from NAPA's platform. They see this as their opportunity to go out and get every advisor in the country under their banner and eliminate the IMOs like the PFGs of the world. They think we have no place, that we shouldn't, that we're not viable, and that everybody needs to come under their banner. And so, and they're already out there saying, you better come with us or you're gonna be out of business come April 10th. And so I'm telling you today, you do not have to make that decision today. There will be alternatives for you. We will have alternatives for you. And we're doing this because we want you to know that we're staying on top of this for you and for us. So any other questions, and then we'll go. Paul?
One of the things you mentioned earlier, just briefly about contracting, that's one of the things I was gonna ask. What's contracting for a new agent gonna look like under the DOL with somebody having to take liability for the business they write?
So this is actually a twofold question. First of all, there will be a new contract with the financial institution. And we're in the process of developing that, and more than likely around mid to late January, the new contract will be available with the financial institution. But the real question I think you're asking me is, of all the advisors who are doing business with Legacy today, are they going to be acceptable to Legacy, the financial institution, in the future? You know, and the thing is, I think if there are some significant red flags, there will be an issue. So we'll definitely have to do background checks again. We'll definitely have to do other processes again to be able to bring somebody else on. And that's why I'm trying to get ready for that as quickly as I can, as early in the year as I possibly can, so that you guys have an opportunity to test that out and try to, you know, send us the applications for your producers that you guys are trying to get on board with Legacy as a financial institution.
We have a very big producer with us, not in Arizona, and none of you probably know him, who has been fighting a big chargeback that he received, that frankly, when you know all the facts, it was totally out of his control and was not his fault. And he doesn't believe he should be on the hook for it, and he's been through his attorneys and so forth fighting that. However, that's on his record. I can tell you today, and I've told him, look, you might as well, you either get it settled or bite the bullet and take care of it, because come, you know, between now and April 10th, it could cause you to lose a lot of your contracts if you haven't settled that. So clean up your acts if you need to, because it is going to be an issue.
Excuse me, I wanted to jump in real quick before we lose our time. With the AAP, Americans for Annuity Protection, when you mentioned the executive order, what our approach is, our strategy as of our board meeting last week, is we are going to ask Paul Ryan, who happens to be from Wisconsin, and we gave him his first fundraiser when he was running, he was just a little pup. But anyway, good friend of the family. We're going to approach him to put an umbrella budget together that gets us past January 22, just to keep the government running budget, and then January 22, a full budget that withholds funds for the implementation of the rule, to get us time to develop a rule that is workable, not complex, and not confusing. So my reason for mentioning that is we're going to ask you to get active. We need to have all of you again communicate with, and we'll have it all on our website to, you know, easy things that you can use, pre-drafted letters, that sort of thing, but we're going to need your engagement. So business as usual, prepare for DOL, and get active so that we can get this thing fixed so it's workable.
Very good message, I like it.
Folks, we have to be out of here by 11:30. We've got about 10 minutes, so we don't have to rush. However, the reason we have to be out of here at 11:30 is because the way this facility works is we can have a meeting like this and we can offer a breakfast, continental breakfast, or we can offer a lunch or both. We're not buying your lunch. So they do not want to have the police out here because they've got a really nice buffet set up, whether or not you should be eating lunch with them.
Oh, we have the financial institution will sign.
The reason I bring that up is so that you don't stop and have lunch on your way out. But I would thank you, everybody, for being here, for participating. We value every one of you, your opinions, what you do with us, and we're here. We want to know your questions and your concerns, and we'll take them to folks like this so that we get good answers for you. Arnie?
Just a comment. A lot of us have done business with multiple FMOs over the years. We've done business with Legacy for years. And I have to tell you, you come home to the ones that take care of you. And I will endorse that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.